And if everyone would stay muted, that would be helpful as well. Let me go ahead and share my screen.
Is that better? Is that better?
I'm going to turn off your camera. Okay, Catherine? And if everyone would just stay muted, because once I'm sharing, I can't get back to unmute folks without leaving share mode. All right, well, it is the top of the hour, so we're going to go ahead and get started. Welcome to our monthly Opportunities in Health IT session. I'm Dr. Char Banta. I'm the Program Director of the Health Information Technology Program at St. John's River State College here in St. Augustine. We are pleased to partner with the Northeast Florida Health Information Management Association to offer these monthly Lunch and Learn sessions, which feature the stories of health IT and health information management professionals. A couple of quick housekeeping items before we get started. Everyone on the call should stay muted. Feel free to enter any questions into the chat box. We can unmute after the formal presentation. One CEU will be granted for attendance, and the process for claiming that credit will be shared at the end of the presentation. If you're a student attending the session for course credit, be sure that your full name is displayed so that you'll be on the roster for credit. You can either click on your name within the person menu to edit that, or you can drop and rejoin and just enter your full name. And also the session is being recorded. So our speaker today is Raeanna Bonetti. She serves as an HIM operations manager at Nemours Children's Health System in Jacksonville. She is an alumna of our HIT program here at St. John's River State, who went on to get her master's in health information management from the College of St. Scholastica, also happens to be my alma mater. And she holds credentials as an RHIT and as CPC. So thank you so much for being with us today, Raeanna. I will turn it over to you.
All right, sounds good. Good morning, everybody. As Charlene said, my name is Raeanna Bonetti, and I do work for Nemours Children's Health System. You can go to the next slide.
And if everyone would mute, please, so we don't have feedback.
Nemours is a nonprofit children's health organization that began more than 70 years ago by Alfred I. DuPont, and his trust actually still supports our organization today. That's one of the reasons why we stay in business. And I started 18 years ago at Nemours as a file clerk, making $9 an hour. And I went from being a manager, retail manager for Best Buy stores to being a file clerk. So that's one of the things I'm going to talk about a little bit later. I've done many jobs throughout the HIM department, which is perfect for me because my management style lends itself well to that. Next slide, please. And so, obviously, as you heard, I graduated from St. John's River State College, which wasn't the state college back then. I was the first class of 3 people, which was really exciting. I also received my bachelor degree from Florida State College at Jacksonville in supervision and management, and then again went on to my master's degree at the College of St. Scholastica. And I also minored, I would say, in online education because I had some passion around that as well. So if you can go to the next slide. Oh, one of the things I wanted to mention with the education too is that, when I graduated from high school, I started out wanting to be a teacher, and then I quickly realized that I couldn't be with little kids all day long, which is what I thought I wanted to do. And so then I decided I was going to be a nurse, and I became a nursing assistant and realized very quickly that wasn't for me either, which is what led me to the HIM field eventually. Okay, next slide, please. And I do hold my RHIT credential, which is through the American Health Information Management Association. And I also have a CPC credential, which is through the American Academy of Professional Coders. And the CPC credential, I have found that more outpatient facilities use that and like to have that. And then more inpatient facilities really like to have the AHIMA certification. But really, their AHIMA is more widely recognized than the CPC. And I am eligible to take the RHIA test, but I just haven't done that yet. There's been a lot of things that have, come up and kept me from doing that. The next slide. Just wanted to talk a little bit about community involvement. I really feel strongly about being involved in the community and giving back to the association. If there weren't people who helped me along the way, I would not be where I'm at. So I feel very strongly about giving back. And ways that you can do that is through the Northeast Florida Health Information Management Association. As you can see, I just started out working on a committee and then worked my way up. The Florida Health Information Management Association, again, I started out being a mentor and then worked on a committee, wrote a little article for our Key Coastline newsletter, became program chair, all of that. I just kind of worked my way up through director, and I haven't really had a desire to run for president or anything like that, but maybe someday. Also, with the National Association, I did some work group involvement. Hopefully, I'll get a little more involved with that as time goes on. And as far as the American Academy of Professional Coders, I do attend some of their meetings and do networking and things like that. HIM advisory committees, I'm involved in St. John's, FSCJ. I take students from colleges all across the United States. One of our vendors, which is Highland, I'm actually the vice president for our Healthcare Vogue right now. So I try to stay very involved, and it really keeps me grounded. Next slide, please. So my current role, I do support the director. I manage day-to-day operations. I manage the budget by enhancing revenue and managing our expenses. We utilize CI principles, which is continuous improvement principles, to improve processes, not only in our department, but across the organization. Next slide, please. I work with internal resources such as providers, quality, risk, informatics on all kinds of projects throughout the organization. I work with other hospitals. We are affiliated with hospitals all across the eastern side of the United States. And I work very closely with them to help promote interoperability, make sure we're getting what we need from them, make sure they are getting what they need from us. I also participate in vendor selection when we need some new technology. And of course, it's always important to ask other departments in the organization for feedback on how well we're doing as an HIM department. Next slide, please. So my career path, as I mentioned, I was a manager in the retail arena for a while. You can't do that forever. Uh-oh, I see somebody can't hear anything. Can other people hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay, good. So I knew I couldn't do that forever. So I decided that I needed to go back to school, which is what led me to St. John's River State College. And once I got into the program, that's when I left the retail arena and started my job at Nemours as a file clerk. And like I said, I took a big pay cut, which is why one of the things that we'll talk about in a little while is to just take anything you can to get your foot in the door. It didn't take me long to get right back on the path where I was into management. They moved me into a role pretty quickly to create a quality, productivity, all of that, a program for the HRM department. So that led to our HRM director leaving, which left an opportunity, and then I moved right on into that role, which I was in the right place at the right time. And one of the other roles that I hold is as an adjunct instructor. And I started teaching at St. John's River State College in 2006 and went on, left there in 2011. And this was when I was pursuing my master's degree, so I thought I needed a break, but then St. Petersburg called and I said, sure, why not? And I'm still teaching there today. Now, when you're an adjunct instructor, it's normally paid by the class, and that can be anywhere from $900 to $2,000 a class, depending on the education level that you have and the college that you're teaching at. And for the management role, in my experience, it can pay between $30 and $50 an hour, depending on your experience, the type of role that you're in, and the things that you're willing to take on. Next slide, please. So the benefits of my role. I have a lot of flexibility. So if I needed to go to the dentist and take an hour off, then I can, as long as I get my job done that day, I'm okay. Because I work in an exempt position, which means I'm salaried. And vice versa, if there's a go live or a project or something that I need to spend extra time on, I do have to put in extra time on weekends and things like that when necessary. So I do have flexibility. There's also a lot of variety. I never get bored because I get to do a lot of different things in a day. I'm not one of those type of people that can just sit and stare at monitors all day long. So the job that I have, I get to do a lot of different things. I find myself on conference calls, analyzing data, meeting with associates. I mean, there's just a lot of variety. Also, the innovation aspect of it. We're always trying to do things better, more efficiently. So we're pushing ourselves to try to think of better ways. Sometimes that involves technology and sometimes it doesn't. There's also a lot of collaboration. I get to collaborate with some amazing people, and that gives me a chance to learn something new every day if you keep your mind open. Next slide, please. Some of the challenges of the role. So obviously, COVID-19 is a huge challenge that we're facing right now. It hit us financially very, very, very hard. Nemours was very committed to keeping all of our associates whole and not furloughing or things like that, which was amazing on the part of our president and CEO and board. And the CARES Act, I'm sure you've all heard of the CARES Act, but they did contribute financially to helping children's hospitals stay afloat during all of this. So that has helped, but we are still facing big financial challenges that we're trying to pull back from now. One of the other challenges that we're facing is that we are implementing an OCR solution. OCR is optical character recognition, and we're unable to bring any vendors on site, and we're not allowed to travel. So we have had to become very creative on how we are going to have the vendor shadow our associates and all of that. So we've had to make videos. It's been pretty interesting how we've made this work. Managing associates can also be a challenge. It's not easy. Everyone is different. We all have different communication styles. We all have different needs. Right now during COVID, our associates have their children at home trying to learn. So we're having to really be flexible in the way that we do things these days. Communication differences between other leaders. So you have to, as I mentioned earlier, you have to collaborate a lot with other leaders in the organization. What I would recommend is learn your communication style. You can do like a Myers-Briggs or one of those type assessments, and you can learn what your style is. I am definitely a type A, and I value greatly one of my counterparts, type C personality, communication style, because she keeps me in check. And if you will, she completes me. So I would say learn that and you'll be good, because then you'll know how to communicate with other styles. Next slide, please. So recommendations. Always be flexible, be open-minded, be willing to listen and learn, ask questions, don't just jump to assumptions. I would say take your certification exams while information is fresh in your mind. I didn't take my own advice, and I waited a year after graduation to take my exam, and I passed, but it wasn't easy. I would say definitely take it as soon as you can after you graduate. Very quickly, learn what you need to do to maintain your credentials. You do not want to let those slide. I mean, once you've spent all that time and effort into getting those credentials, you want to keep them up by getting your CEUs, learning how to submit them. So get familiar with the AHEMA site. And then again, take any job you can to get your foot in the door. You can volunteer, you can be a casual associate, part-time, you can work in a different department. There's just all kinds of things you can do just to get your foot in the door. And I've hired many people from internships or from volunteering and that kind of thing. So I would say definitely do it. It's worth it. I seem to have lost my connection. Are we on the second recommendation slide now?
Yep.
Okay. Pick any opportunities that you're given. If your employer offers you the chance to get another certification, for example, we had a CPC class at Nemours years back, and I took advantage of it and went ahead and got that credential. Even though I'm not a coder, it does help me. Take any seminars and classes that you're offered. You're always going to learn something. Even if it's just one little nugget, you're always going to learn something. And shadowing. I would say shadow anybody that you possibly can and learn anything you can, because all of that is just going to make you into a better HIMer. Sing your own praises. So make sure people know how valuable you are. Nobody's going to keep up with all your accomplishments but you. So I would say do that from the beginning and just, make sure people know how well you're doing. And then stay organized. So 18 years ago, I had a lot of information coming at me, and over the years, I've acquired a lot of tools and things that I still kind of look back to today. So I would say stay organized and keep all of that accessible. You never know when you're going to need it.
Recording is on. What is this James on top?
Okay, and then I would say do your research. Make sure you look around and do your research on the organizations in your area, and see who you really want to work for. The Joint Commission and state regulations, things like that. Make sure you know how to research them. It's going to help you in the long run. And then the last recommendation I have is to stay involved. Like I said, I mentor students. I take interns during normal circumstances. Obviously, right now during COVID, we can't. But it all of that helps. Not only the student and the profession, but it helps me. And that is the last of what I had prepared. So I guess we can maybe open it up for questions.
Thank you so much for that. Really excellent, insightful information for our students and our guests who've joined us today. If you have any questions for Raeanna, feel free to enter them in the chat box, or you can unmute yourself and ask verbally at this point. If you joined for CEU credit, I have the instructions here on the screen to get that credit. You can just shoot me an email at charlenebanta@sjrstate.edu, and I will get that certificate out to you. Any questions for Raeanna? Again, if you're a student who joined for class credit, be sure that your first and last name are entered in the system. You can click on yourself under the People tab and edit your name if you didn't enter your name, or you could drop and rejoin and enter your name, just to be sure you're on the roster and get credit for being here today. Any questions?
Miss Raeanna.
Yes.
Hi. This is Rico. I am just want to know, how long have you been? I came in late, but how long had you been in your position?
So I've been with Nemours 18 years. In my current position, probably 15 of those.
And I saw on your information you were saying take any job that you can to get your foot in the door. Are you meaning as far as with HIM or in a specific role, or just any position
Well,
to get
let's
into the
say you
hospital
wanted,
facility?
right, let's say you wanted to work for Nemours and we didn't have a position in HIM. You could take a position in registration or, one of the other areas that is kind of closely related, billing, any of those areas deal with things that HIM needs to know about, such as insurance and all of that, scheduling. You could take a job in scheduling. And eventually, when a position opens up, you'd be more likely to get it than somebody from the outside because you're already in the organization. Does that make sense?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am, it does. Thank you.
So should we start trying to volunteer or get an internship now, or do we need to wait until we graduate?
Well, your internship, you would do that in a certain semester. So obviously your program director is going to be the one to guide you in that. As far as volunteering, you could do that at any time, and it's just going to help you in the long run. And when you're talking to the volunteer coordinator, you can let them know that you're interested in volunteering in the HIM department.
Thank you.
There's a question in the chat about asking if you could go over the communication portion. You mentioned that you're a type A. How would you find out what type you are?
There are lots of communication style assessments. I mentioned the Myers-Briggs. There's others. You can just Google communication style assessments or personality assessments, that kind of thing, and you'll see that there are many, many of them out there, and not all of them cost. Some of them are free. You can do. It's not as extensive as the ones that cost more, but at least you can get an idea.
And what kind of advice would you give a student that doesn't get to do an internship due to COVID-19?
Well, lucky for you guys, organizations like Nemours have offered to do presentations for you guys. I know one of the presentation that we are going to do later in the fall is pretty extensive. We show screenshots of our EMR and of our, our other technology that we use. And we talk about, we have our coding manager do a piece of it and our transcription person do a piece of it, all of that. So you get exposed to it all. It's not perfect because you can't get hands-on experience, but I think you'll get a lot out of things like that.
Yeah, I would add to that. And by the way, thank you for being one of our HIM managers who is making the semester a success, even with the challenges that we're facing. And I think that while this semester of PPEs aren't going to look as they normally would, they're, in a sense, being enhanced because students this semester are going to get exposure to far more organizations. Instead of being assigned to one specific organizations, they're going to get to partner with many, even though it's virtual. So there are challenges, but they're presenting us with opportunities as well. And I think that it's going to be fine. Let's see. So what are my other options in receiving CE, and how many do I have to keep it up? Is it every 2 years?
Yeah, so for an RHIT, you have to maintain 20 CEUs every 2 years, and you have to submit them on the AHIMA website, and then you have to hold on to the evidence for, I can't remember how many years, but it's definitely a few years. And so CEUs, you can get them in all kinds of different ways. There's the AHIMA magazine that comes out that offers CEUs. I think you may have to pay a small amount to turn in those quizzes to get those CEUs. There's a lot of free CEUs that are offered by our local HIM association. There are some that are offered by vendors that are free. There's lots of different ways you can get CEUs. You can get CEUs by taking students. So you can get CEUs by doing presentations. There's all kinds of different ways to get CEUs, and you can learn about that on the AHIMA website.
And you earn CEUs by joining the session. So after you graduate, you can still join our monthly sessions and hear from our local HIM professionals and continue to earn your CEU credit this way. Let's see. Hello. Are there any areas in your department that are experiencing rapid growth compared to others?
That's a good question. So I'm trying to figure out how to answer this. There is a lot of growth in that we have acquired a lot of primary care offices and hired new doctors. And so we see a lot of growth as far as more patients, which is more paperwork and more things that we need to handle. But we're getting more efficient in how we handle that by using the EMR and some other technology that we have, computer assisted coding, like those types of things. So the growth is happening, and while you would think that we would have to hire a lot of new people to handle it, we're just working smarter and maybe just hiring a few people here and there. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, that's excellent. Thank you. There was another comment in the chat, not really a question, but recommending that they follow Facebook pages of local chapters or national sites that post opportunities for CEUs, and that's an excellent suggestion, so thank you for that. Additionally, the College of St. Scholastica, I know they hold open courses a couple of times a year that are typically worth 10 to 12 to 16. I've seen several different numbers, but a pretty good chunk of CEUs for each of the courses that they open up. It's an online course that's free and runs over a series of weeks. So that's another way to get free education that would count towards CEU credit.
You know, the other thing I wanted to mention is that every time I take a student, it seems like they always want to be a coder, to work from home. And I did want to mention that there are so many other opportunities to work from home. All of our release of information people work from home. All of our abstractors, who are the people who put the paperwork into the EMR and the data into the EMR, they all work from home. Our coders all work from home. So there's a lot of opportunities to work from home. You don't have to just be a coder, because we can't all be coders.
Yep, and IT, so EHR and systems support people all work from home as well. So excellent point. What are other social media sites besides Facebook that are good for networking?
LinkedIn. LinkedIn is probably one of the best, I would think.
And she says, thank you. Thank you for that. I agree. One of my first jobs was actually through a connection on LinkedIn that reached out to me. So excellent advice. Other questions? Again, you can enter them in the chat or unmute yourself.
Well, this went much faster than I thought it was going to.
Well, seeing none, any final words of wisdom for our attendees here today?
Just be open-minded and willing to learn and ask questions, network with people in the profession, and you will get there.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being with us. We really appreciate your time, and looking forward to the tour coming up in a couple of months here.
Definitely. That was my pleasure.
Have a great day.
You too.